Chapter 7, Manhattan, November 3rd, 1968, afternoon. It is Sunday, and the New York Jets are rolling again, led by a brash young quarterback from Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania, named Joe Namath. Joe Namath, I love that guy. He's the best. The home team has just defeated the Buffalo Bills 25-21, upping their record to 6 wins with just 2 losses. That's good. Richard Nixon will defeat Hubert Humphrey for the presidency 2 days from now. But in the New York City area, it is Joe Namath who is the king. You can't beat Joe Namath. He will eventually lead the Jets to an 11-win, 3-loss regular season record, then drive a playoff victory over the powerful Oakland Raiders. And finally, he will back up his shocking prediction that the Jets would defeat the Baltimore Colts in the Super Bowl by engineering that stunning upset. What is he, a prophet? Or a psychic? Namath wears his hair long and his football shoes white. He is cocky, charming, and cunning with the media. A true prince of the city, the quarterback squires around beautiful women, has commercial endorsements all over the place, and looks like he's having a hell of a good time every second of the day. Sounds like it. The newspapers love him. Joe Namath is 25 years old. Donald Trump is 22. Both are single. Both crave 2 things: action and adulation. Yes, they do. Namath has branded himself Broadway Joe. His marketing quote is, "I can't wait until tomorrow, because I get better looking every day." He will front a restaurant, Bachelor's 3, and pretty much owns Manhattan, figuratively speaking. Donald Trump does not yet have a brand, but he does have a vision. Yes, I do. He wants to own Manhattan, at least the affluent parts. Literally. He sees in front of him glittering Gotham City, and how the flamboyant Broadway Joe is dominating it. The young Trump believes he can do that too. Of course I can. I can do anything I set my mind to. But the real estate developer has a problem. The problem's name is Fred. 1968 was a very turbulent year for America. In January, the Tet Offensive in Vietnam turned many American citizens against the war. About 90 days after that fight began, which American forces eventually won, President Lyndon Johnson announced that he would not seek re-election. On April 4th, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in Memphis, Tennessee. That brutal incident incited race riots across the country, adding to the public acrimony over the Vietnam War. Very troubling time. Then, on June 5th, Senator Robert F. Kennedy was shot in Los Angeles, the second Kennedy brother assassinated for political reasons. The country was reeling. Yes, it was. Almost 3 months later, in late August, the city of Chicago erupted in violence and chaos while hosting the Democratic National Convention. Protesters and police clashed violently. As the nation watched on television, Americans were angry, exhausted, and discouraged. Pretty much what was going on back in those days is no different than what's going on right now. I know, just a different time period. But in Queens, the real estate business was good. The Trump Organization making a lot of money. For a kid right out of college, Donald was being well paid, but he was already chafing. He wanted to begin buying property in Manhattan. His father did not. I want more. Fred never understood my father's vision, Donald Trump Jr., who is now running the Trump real estate empire, told me. Fred had that Germanic thrift. I remember stories that he would buy a mop handle and the mop separately, then put the two together because that was a way to save money. You'd save a penny, and it mattered. He'd go around job sites collecting nails because a wasted nail was money lost. He wasn't a spender at all. I mean, his house was nice, probably one of the nicest homes in Jamaica Estates, Queens. But it was still Queens. Yes, it was. It was Queens. Fred Trump well understood that expanding into Manhattan meant spending an enormous amount of money getting established. He simply did not want to do it. Having graduated from the working-class Richmond Hill High School, Fred was overjoyed to be a millionaire. He didn't need to be a billionaire. Apparently, his son did. Oh, you better believe that I wanted to be a billionaire. But Fred would not budge. No, he wouldn't. I think no two people respected each other more than my father and his father, Don Jr. said. But they fought. Yes, they did. Brutally. It is February 2019, and Donald Trump Jr. and I are speaking at the lavish Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan. The president's oldest child is well positioned to understand how the Trump real estate dynasty evolved from his grandfather to his father, as he has experienced both the personal and business sides of both men. Did they clash at all? Incredibly, because it was the same personality with two very different perspectives. Fred would go to job sites and ask my father, "Why are you doing that?" He would go around to make sure my father was doing it right. To check up on your father to make sure the building was constructed correctly? Right. There was a love and a respect like you couldn't possibly understand, but they had disagreements. Oh, yes, they did. Was your grandfather a workaholic? There were a few occasions when it was like, okay, I'm going to go over and spend the weekend with my grandfather and grandmother. Now, my grandmother was the opposite of Fred. She had an incredible sense of humor, just an amazingly tough, funny lady. Fred was the opposite. When I was there, he'd say to me, "Let's go collect some rent." He would do that. I was 5, 6 years old. That's my father. Collecting rent with your grandfather? Like in middle-income housing in Queens. He'd knock on the door and be like, "Hey, you're late with the rent." And he took me along because he literally did not know anything other than what it was like to work. His constant saying was, to retire is to expire. That's the Trump way. So it is that. In late 1968, Donald Trump faced a dilemma in the early part of his real estate career. Yes, I did. His father ran the show and was not going to expand or step aside. No, he wasn't. He was stubborn. And that's where I get it. That's where I get my stubbornness. Donald was learning and earning, but yearning. Oh, yes, I was. I was yearning for action. He wanted the action of Manhattan. There's no better place than Manhattan to get action. He wanted to have what Broadway Joe had. Fame, excitement, and success. Big success. I will not settle for anything less. But how to make it all happen? Donald Trump became obsessed with finding a way. I always find a way. That's how I won the 2016 presidential election. I always find a way.